Hey guys, John Farrell with the Farrell Law Firm here. Today we're going to talk about minors signing last wills and testaments. But before we get into that, make sure you subscribe to the channel. We put out new videos every Tuesday and Friday, so you want to make sure you don't miss those. And make sure you hit the like button to the video. It always helps. All right, again, this is John Farrell with the Farrell Law Firm. To tell you a little bit about myself, I am the author of Estate Planning for the Modern Family, and I was also recently voted one of the top 3 lawyers located here in Cobb County, Georgia, along with the law firm being voted one of the top 3 law firms here in Cobb County. Well, today we're going to talk about minors signing last wills and testaments. So every state regulates their citizens when it comes to certain things that they can do. You have to be a certain age to get a learner's permit. It's 15 in Georgia. You have to be a certain age to get a driver's permit. You have to be 16 here in Georgia. You have to be a certain age to vote. You have to be a certain age to get married. You have to be a certain age to buy beer, things of that nature. And so some of these things are regulated on the federal level. Sometimes they're regulated on the state level. Wills are regulated on the state level. So every state has different ages when it comes to being able to sign a last will and testament. Well, one of the interesting things that I do whenever someone brings in a will that they have created or they've had someone else create for them, one of the first things I do is turn to the last page. The reason I turn to the last page is there is often a magic number on the last page that will tell me whether the person that drafted the will is somebody that does this for a living, because there's a little magic trick that we see on the last page. I'll tell you an example. For example, you may have heard stories of musicians and bands putting really interesting eccentric things in their contracts whenever they go to perform. One of the more famous ones is when Van Halen used to perform. They would put that they could only have brown M&Ms in their dressing room, that the promoters at these different venues would be required to put brown M&Ms in their dressing room, and only brown M&Ms. Well, there's a very valid reason for that. These days, you might hear about musicians saying, well, you have to provide roses, and they need to be 24 white roses. Or some variation of that. Like I said, there's a very valid reason for that. The reason is that because at many of these places, they don't have control over the venues or the security at the venues. So they'll put into their contracts, you have to make sure the venue's up to city code. You have to make sure the security is trained by licensed personnel. And by the way, we have these requirements that you have to put in our dressing room. And what they do is when they show up and they see there are either no M&Ms in there, or maybe there's all kinds of different colored M&Ms, that they know that if there's not those things located in the dressing room, then they probably didn't read the requirements about the other things. And it's an easy tell to know that someone didn't read the contract. Well, here in Georgia, one of the things we do is we flip to the last page and there's a magic number on there. That magic number happens to be the age of 14, because in Georgia, you can be 14 years old and sign your last will and testament. Now, what do other lawyers or other people put? They'll put things in there like, I was the age of majority when I signed my last will and testament. Well, that doesn't really help out a lot, because you can be different ages for different things. Or perhaps they'll say, well, I was at least the age of 18. Well, technically you could be, but if you don't have the number 14 on there, it tells us that you probably don't do this for a living, and you just assumed that 18 was the age of majority. So if you don't get that small thing right about the age of majority, or the age that you can sign a will here in Georgia, which happens to be 14, then you probably have missed a lot of other things in the last will and testament. So when I get one that someone else has prepared, the first thing I do is to look and see if they put the age of 14 on the last page. All right, so that's pretty much all that we have to go over today. Again, make sure that you subscribe to the channel. Again, we put new videos out every Tuesday and Friday, and make sure you hit the like button. Every like helps. And so thank you and have a good day.